Well, we're joined today with Dr. Charles Owubah. And Charles, thank you so much for taking time to share some of your story and how you make a global impact. I'd like to really ask you to start out, if you could just share with us what some of the life events have been that have shaped your story. It could be personal, professional, but kind of as you think about kind of how your story has evolved, what has been important in life that's shaped that story?
Well, thank you, Scott, for the opportunity to dialogue with you, to be able to share my story. I'll say that there are two events, right? I will, couple the first two. It has to do with growing up in rural Ghana and a government policy of free primary and middle school education. Those together, very important. The second one I would say is a helping hand from my uncle to be able to help me to go to high school. These events, Scott, I would say, are the ones that have truly shaped who I am today.
In that context, kind of how has that past brought you to what you do today, to the work that you do?
Yeah, so I think I'll start with, growing up in rural Ghana. Life was very difficult. My parents were poor, very poor, even by rural Ghanaian standards. And as the son of very poor smallholder farmers, there were times when I did not know where the next meal would come from. I know hunger. I have lived it. No child should ever be hungry. And that explains why I am with Action Against Hunger today. The first game changer, right, as I'll share with you, the whole government policy for free primary and middle school education. It was the only reason why I was able to go to school. My parents were too poor to pay for tuition fees and books and things like that. They themselves never went to school. They never set foot in a classroom. So many years ago, as I was reflecting over my own life, I think it just dawned on me the significance of that government policy, which enabled me to be able to go to school. So you see, I am a beneficiary of a well thought out government policy, signifying the importance of institutions and policies in this larger human ecosystem. The second game changer in my life was when my uncle sacrificed to lend a hand to support my high school education. My parents just could not afford the school fees, the boarding fees associated with the high school education. So my uncle offered to help. But his help was going to be for only the first semester of high school. So there was a debate in my family as to what was going to happen next, what happens in the second semester. And so there were some voices saying then there was no value in me even going to high school to begin with. Because if my uncle, the only one who can help me, can only afford the fees for the first semester, why go to high school? Well, I insisted. I persisted. And I said, I will go to school. I'll just take that chance. So I took my chances, but then also my own belief in God, my own faith that somehow miraculously I was going to survive. And lo and behold, Scott, when I went to, school, the first semester, by the time I finished, I had been blessed with a scholarship. And so they say the rest is what history. So I'm here today because of that helping hand from my uncle. And since then, I've been moved, to offer a helping hand to others whenever possible. And so when I finished my degree, I made a conscious effort to be able to join the humanitarian development sector for 2 years as a way of giving back, as a way of lending a hand to someone who needs it. And the plan was just for 2 years so that I can take the experience and the knowledge back to academia, where I was, into the classroom, to make my classes more lively and practical, and also to be able to share the joy of serving. And more than 20 years later, I am still in this sector because of the personal satisfaction that I derive from doing this work. You know, seeing a child who is acutely malnourished and the child being treated. So instead of dying, the child has survived and is doing well, is thriving. It's just enormous for me in terms of the satisfaction. And Scott, what I will also say is that the joy of knowing that through our collective efforts in this sector, that at least some children are not, hungry as I was growing up. It just means a lot to me. So for me, as I've looked over my life, Scott, my calling is to serve. And I am glad that I found it so early in my career, Scott.
Charles, that's a really powerful story. I mean, the fact that you had to endure hunger yourself, and then education, you say, which is often such a great equalizer for children around the world, took advantage of that. And the whole notion that you could have chosen the anger inside, but instead you chose to do good, and that others in your life, like your uncle and your parents, helped you to make that choice. It's really, really very powerful. We're so glad that you have persevered and created that story, because now you lead one of the most significant hunger and food and nutrition organizations in the world, actually, against hunger. When you look ahead, what advice do you have for others who are thinking about how to shape their story, how to use it for good, and how to make their own global impact?
Scott, I think it starts by understanding one's role in this human ecosystem. By understanding that as we are being impacted by the larger human ecosystem, we also have the capability to be able to impact others within the ecosystem. That's how ecosystems work. And it's about a conscious effort to do good for humankind. That conscious effort is always rewarded because, Scott, from my perspective, there is an invisible feedback loop to self in terms of joy, satisfaction, recognition. And this effect is even amplified, Scott, several times over when we are in leadership roles. From my perspective, a good leader is always thinking about molding and shaping the world in enormous ways to be able to influence tomorrow in ways that will benefit future generations. And that to me is global impact. Scott.
Charles, how much does your faith factor into your story?
A huge role, because when you're brought up in those surroundings and you see your friends struggling, dying at a very early age, and living in a community, you hear it, you see it, you go to their funerals. You see your cousins dying in the same compound household that you live in. You fall sick and they do not take you to hospital. There's no hospital nearby. All you have is your faith to be able to take you through. And throughout all of this, it's just the belief that my Maker, who has brought me here today, is capable of taking me to the next level. And regardless of what happens, that He is going to see me through. It's this search within my own inner sanctuary, Scott, that he is alive and He's able and He can guide me. That has been huge in terms of my work and where I am today.
That's very powerful. Charles, we are in the midst of great social unrest and, dealing with prejudice in many different ways here in the United States. What advice do you have for the next generation in terms of how important it is to still have faith that they can make a global impact and that they should persevere?
I think it's that this too shall pass. We will deal with this. We will go through this. America is a great organization, a great country, to put it this way, and that America will be able to deal with this effectively. There is good and there is bad. And good always prevails. We also recognize that there are people who don't have those intentions. So as long as today, the young people of today can believe that tomorrow is going to be better, that provides us and them with hope. And once we have that hope, it does many things. It enables us to be able to have multiple ways of solving the problem, but it also puts us on a journey. And that journey, as we move a step by step, we will be able to then get to the destination, which is where the world is much, much better. It's a beautiful world. So my advice to the younger generation and those coming up is that it is important for them to be able to find, in the midst of all these challenges and difficulty, to be able to find what excites them the most and to be able to take that to scale. And to be able to find it means that they are spending time searching within their own inner sanctuary. And once they find it, needing to manifest it, needing to exhibit it in whatever corner that they find themselves, despite all these challenges going on. And once they find it, they need to make it right. They need to make it purposeful to benefit others and society at large. And it could start by, helping a family member or a colleague or a neighbor, having, a helping hand, extending it to be able to help. It could be finding a solution to a perennial problem that has evaded solution. It could be something entirely new with a view to be able to benefit humanity. My point is that there's a lot of room to be able to make good in this world, because good will always trump bad. And that's what we do, and that's what I strongly believe. They just have to find it in terms of what excites them, and then to be able to take it to scale, knowing that in this human ecosystem, we have the capability to impact others positively. And that's where I think we should go, Scott.
It's very powerful. Hope changes everything. Charles, before we end, could you tell us a little bit about your hopes for action against hunger right now as you look at your priorities, and how can the rest of us support action against hunger?
Thank you, Scott. So we have just approved a 5-year strategy. It is an exciting strategy. And our strategy at the core is saying, we will be there to save lives because life is precious. So we will be there in those moments to be able to save lives. But while we are there, we will also make sure we prevent whatever led to children dying in the first place through hunger, that will not happen. So it's about helping the community to be able to build resilience, and then working with our donors and our supporters on that journey. What we're trying to do is we have a concept called sowing seeds of hope in the countries where we work, and then journeying together with our donors and with our supporters. We think it is very exciting because every donor will have a role to play. When we surveyed our donors and our supporters, there are those who are very much interested in just the short-term aspect of the world, which is we're here to help you save lives. There are others who are very much interested in the long-term effects. They say, Charles, what can we do such that we're not doing the same thing over and over again? How do we bring sustainability to the programs that we're doing? So the Seeds of Hope concept caters for both. And that we think by walking that journey with our donors and our supporters, we should be able to make significant impact in this world. Helping us, there are many ways. Talk to your congresswomen and your congressmen and your senators. that the fact that 690 million people face severe food insecurity today, in a world where we are talking of self-driving cars, that a cell phone in my pocket can do anything that we want, is unacceptable. And that we all need to come together to be able to support and to make sure that hunger is a thing of the past.
Dr. Charles Owubah, powerful force, making a global impact every day and helping to bring food security to millions of children around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.